Hello everyone, it's Hannah here from Virtually Fluent. Welcome to today's video, which is all about little keywords that are used in the present perfect tense. Now, these are very important because native speakers use them a lot, so you need to understand them. And also, in conversation, they make your speaking in the present perfect tense a lot more interesting and exciting. Now, in order to learn the keywords, I highly recommend that you already understand fully how the present perfect tense works. If you're not sure, we do have a grammar video on our website and on YouTube, so you can check that out. Make sure you fully understand that before watching today's video. So today, when we talk about these keywords, I'm going to explain them in 3 different categories. These are not official names at all. This is just the way that I teach them to help you understand their position in a present perfect sentence. We have sandwich keywords, at the end keywords, and flexible keywords, and then we're going to look at the word still. Now, the reason I call some of these keywords sandwich keywords is because they act a little bit like a sandwich. So we have the 2 parts of the present perfect tense, the verb to have and the past participle. And this little keyword goes right in the middle. It's the filling, it's the cheese in the cheese sandwich. So the first example we're going to look at is just. I have just finished my homework. You can see that cheese in between those 2 pieces of bread. On a timeline, it might look something like this, and it means very recently in the past, 2 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, that this activity happened. As you can see, this is used perfectly well in the affirmative. It's not normally used in negative sentences, but it can be used in questions. Now, just be aware that when we ask questions in English, remember we flip the auxiliary verb and the subject. So in order to make this a little bit easier to understand, I've made that subject become some butter. So now we have some cheese and butter in our sandwich. This is only for questions. Have you just finished your homework? The next keyword we're going to look at is already. This works perfectly well in affirmative sentences and it's in the same position. I have already finished my homework. Already means that this event happened in the past, but you didn't really expect it to happen. You expected this to happen even later. So you're surprised, a nice surprise. This person finished their homework yesterday. Oh, that's good. She's already finished her homework. Again, we wouldn't typically use this keyword in the negative, but it's totally fine in questions. Have you already finished your homework? The next sandwich keyword is never. And this means that an event has not happened in your entire life. I have never seen this film. No times have I seen this film in the past. The way that English works is a little bit like a circuit. It needs something positive and it needs something negative. And never is a negative word in English, which means our verb must always be affirmative. We can't have 2 negative parts in a sentence. So we only really use this in affirmative sentences. You could use this in a sort of negative tinted question. However, when we ask a question to somebody about when they have completed this activity in their life, we wouldn't normally use never, we would use ever instead. And this particular word ever is usually used in questions, not in affirmative or negative sentences. Our next keyword is recently. Very similar to just, the period of time that this action happened is very close to the present, as you can see on this timeline. For example, I have recently seen this film. Again, this is totally fine in the affirmative, not typically used in the negative, but it can be used in questions. Have you recently seen this film? So the next type of keyword we're going to look at is at the end keyword, and that's because they are placed at the end of the sentence. There are only 2 keywords we're going to look at. The first is yet. We haven't done our homework yet. Now we use yet to say all my life, all the past, this event has not happened, but very soon, in 1 minute, in 1 day, in the very near future, that will change. So we connect that not ever happened past to yes, going to happen future. That's how we use the word yet. And what you will notice is this is always with a negative verb. But we could also use it in a question. It will be used at the end of a question. Have you done your homework yet? And our second at the end keyword is before. This is very similar to never and ever. It talks about any time during your life. I have been to Berlin before. And you can see this is used with an affirmative verb. It's also totally fine with the negative. I haven't been to Berlin before. And it's also fine as a question. Have you been to Berlin before? Now, the next keywords we're going to look at are flexible. Now, when I say flexible, this means they can generally go right at the beginning of the sentence or right at the end of the sentence. Our first example is so far. Again, this means at any point in my life from the past all the way up to now, a particular event has or hasn't happened. So far, we've been lucky with the weather, or we've been lucky with the weather so far. No difference. The only thing is when it is used at the beginning, it tends to be followed by a comma. When it's at the end, we don't tend to need a comma. So far can be used in the affirmative. It's also totally fine in the negative. So far, we haven't been lucky with the weather. We haven't been lucky with the weather so far. And it's also totally fine as a question. Now, when we ask questions with all of these flexible keywords, they tend to go at the end of the question. You can use them at the beginning, but the important part is really what is the action? So that really needs to come before in order to create a good question in English. Have you been lucky with the weather so far? Now, our next flexible keyword is recently, which talks about a period of time very close to the present tense. Recently, I visited France. I visited France recently. Now, we need to be careful because recently was also used as a sandwich keyword. Remember, it could also be placed in the middle. Now, there's a slight difference in meaning. When it's used as a sandwich keyword, it's very possible that the event is still ongoing. It sort of started very close to the present time and it continues. When we use it as a flexible keyword at the beginning or at the end, generally this means that that particular event has finished, has passed. And it can be used in the affirmative, also in the negative, I haven't been to France recently, and as a question, have you visited France recently? Remember, at the end. Our next keyword is lately, and this actually has the same meaning and the same use as recently. It can be used in affirmative, negative, and questions in the same position. So the next keyword is up to now. And this is very similar to yet. It's the idea that a particular event has or has not happened at any point in the past. Now, in the present, and going into the future, it's very likely, almost 100% certain, that this thing, this action, is going to change. For example, up to now, I've watched it 3 times, or I've watched it 3 times up to now. Perhaps this is a film, I would guess. And in the future, you're going to watch another time. So it's not going to be 3 times. Now it's going to be 4 times instead. So there is a change from the past into the present future. This can also be used in the negative. Up to now, I haven't seen this film. I haven't seen this film up to now. And as a question, have you seen this film up to now? Now, we do have a few alternatives that have exactly the same meaning and use as well as up to now. Up until now, up till now, until now, and till now. I wouldn't recommend writing the tills on paper, just in conversation. Our next keyword is in the last few. Could also be replaced with over the last few, and this is a little bit different because it must be followed by a quantity of time. It could be a number of days, years, weeks, months. For example, in the last few months, I have improved my English. This is totally fine in affirmative, negative, and in questions. And again, it has this idea of any point during the past. But of course, we've got this kind of limit, the number of months or the number of years that you're talking about. And our final 2 flexible keywords are some of the most important in the present perfect tense. These are since and for. Now, both of these have exactly the same definition. What we do is refer to a very specific period of time or a very specific date, and we compare that to right now. Perhaps this event will continue into the future. The only difference is the type of word that follows immediately after these key words. After since, we must use a very specific day, date, month, year. Since Monday, since October the 25th, since 12 p.m., since 2001. For, on the other hand, is a quantity of time, so usually a number and then the unit. For 4 days, for 6 hours, for 10 years. And both of them, as I said, are used in the same way. Affirmative, negative question, totally fine. The only difference is that period or quantity of time that follows immediately after. For example, since 2005, I have known her. I've known her since 2005. Or for 10 years, we've been married. We've been married for 10 years. If we put both of those together, you can see the different types of times that are used. Now, the final keyword I want to look at is still, and that's because it doesn't follow any of the rules above. So still is used to say that you expected an event to happen, already happen in the past, but it has not happened right up until now. You're a little bit angry. Ugh, I needed those dishes to be washed. They still haven't been washed. So there's a lot of anger and disappointment in this sentence. But what you'll notice is that this is inserted in a different position. This is in between the subject and the auxiliary verb, completely different. He still hasn't washed the dishes, and you'll also notice that this is with a negative verb typically. You could use this in questions, although it sounds a little odd and it's probably not used in affirmative sentences. So hopefully all of these keywords will help you explain exactly when an event happened a little bit better when we use the present perfect tense. You can download our presentation from today, read the transcript, complete some online worksheets, lots more materials you can also find on our website on our present perfect course. As I said, I've left the link in the description below. And of course, you should go ahead and like today's video, especially if you've learned something new, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can see lots more videos with English grammar, pronunciation, and vocabulary explanations. This is Hannah from Virtually Fluent, bringing English to life.